Hello, and welcome to another video on this channel. And today we're going to be looking at the drought conditions that have been very persistent across the southern and southeastern U.S. And so I'll be looking at how this drought came into fruition and how it has progressed over the past few months. I'll show you what the rainfall deficits have looked like and some of the worst areas of the drought. Look at the background pattern that helps explain why this drought came into fruition, and then look at some of the rainfall forecasts going forward and see if we're going to get any relief from this drought. So if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe, and we're going to get started. So I'm going to start off with the current drought monitor that was released on November 9th of 2023. And so this shows the current drought conditions across the continental United States. And so in the red and maroon shading, this kind of right here from Louisiana up into northern Alabama and southern Tennessee, that is where the extreme to exceptional drought is located. And they have the legend down here below where it just describes what all these colors mean. So the yellow shading just indicates abnormally dry conditions. It's not officially a drought, but it's just where precipitation is below normal. And so where you have the tan and the orange shading, that is indicative of the moderate to severe drought, and typically just has short-term impacts to agricultural and grasslands of typically less than 6 months. And then in the red and maroon shading, this is the extreme to exceptional drought, and this is where we typically have more long-term impacts, typically greater than 6 months, to impacts things like hydrology, ecology, and other agricultural areas. So this drought has been plaguing the southern and southeastern United States for the past few months, and we can actually track where this drought first began and track the expansion of that drought. So let's take a look at the map archives here, and let me put up a more zoomed in view for the southeastern U.S. And so this is just a more zoomed in look at the current drought across the southeastern states, including Arkansas, Louisiana, and Kentucky, all the way east up to the East Coast. So again, this is where the extreme to exceptional drought is located. You have in the red and maroon shading, which indicates the extreme to exceptional drought. And then I can scroll back up and show what the drought looked like when it first began. So this drought first kind of got started in the early parts of the summer months. So this is June 20th when this chart is valid, and you have most of the southeastern states relatively free of drought. A few areas that are either abnormally dry or perhaps in a moderate drought. But as you recall, especially if you are kind of in this area over here and over the Mid-South, Ohio, and Tennessee Valley regions, we had a very active summer. We had a lot of storms to work with, so we had a very wet summer. So as that summer progressed, we didn't really have much of a drought to speak of at all across the southeastern states. But as we go into the 4th of July, you do see the drought beginning to take shape across southern Louisiana, which is kind of where the epicenter of the drought is located as of right now. And so we had a moderate drought that was first introduced in southern Louisiana as early July. And again, much of the southeastern states were pretty much drought-free. And then as we go forward through the next few months, you're going to see the rapid progression of the drought. So August 1st, you did see some drought expansion in southern Louisiana, where you do see moderate to severe drought beginning to take shape, and mostly just abnormally dry conditions, again, just in a few spots across the southern U.S., as again, if you recall, we had a very wet summer across much of this region. But the precipitation, of course, didn't expand that far to the south, across Louisiana and Mississippi, so they unfortunately missed out on some of the rain that we got. But as we go through later summer and into the fall, you're going to really see this drought really pick up. So let's go to September. And this is where we start getting that extreme to exceptional drought. Very rapid onset over the next month. You see the extreme to exceptional drought encompasses most of the state of Louisiana and then begins to expand into southern Mississippi. And then let's watch how this drought progresses over the next couple of months. So this is October 3rd. And so that extreme to exceptional drought expands more into southern half of Mississippi, and then a moderate drought extends beyond that into the Tennessee Valley. And then we go to the current map released on November 9th, but valid as of November 7th, and that shows where we're at now. So we have that extreme to exceptional drought across much of the state of Louisiana and Mississippi, up through the southern half of Tennessee, including northwest Georgia, and then all the way down to the Gulf Coast, essentially. You do have another extension for southern Alabama and northwest Florida. So that's kind of where the worst of the drought is currently located. And so that's how this drought has progressed over the past few months. So now we can take a look at the rainfall deficits in some of the hard areas that are hardest hit from the drought. I'm going to take a look at some of the precipitation graphs of this year compared to what is considered normal. So we're going to take a look at a few different areas, and we're going to start here in Huntsville, Alabama. And so the green graph is showing the precipitation accumulation for this year, and then the brown line shows what is considered normal for that time of year. So for Huntsville, Alabama, the precipitation was pretty much considered to be pretty much around normal through about the first third of the year, up through around the end of April. And then we had a little bit of a dry spell for May. And then, as you recall, we had a pretty active summer. It was very much wetter than normal. And we had a lot of precipitation through the month of June, July, and then the first part of August. But then, as you can see, the second half of August and then up through where we are now has been very dry. It's been bone dry for the past few months across northern Alabama, which is why that drought has rapidly expanded up into the northern part of Alabama and the Tennessee Valley. So this is where we stand currently. This is for November 12th. And so we have accumulated 37 inches of rain here in Huntsville, Alabama, and what is considered normal is 45 inches of rain up through this date so far. So that creates a rainfall deficit of about 8 inches of rain, which sounds like a lot, and it is. It's a lot of rain that we're missing, but that is not near as bad as what it's like further to the south. So let's take a look further south, and we're going to look at Jackson, Mississippi. And so this is going to be the Jackson area. And so this is what the graph looks like for Jackson, Mississippi. So it looks kind of similar to what it looked like in Huntsville. Rainfall either at or just above normal for about the first half of the year. And then as we go into the second half of the year, for summer and through the first part of the fall, it has been bone dry for where that extreme to exceptional drought is located. So they officially went below normal for precipitation after about July 24th. And then where they currently stand now for November 12th, it is going to be about 36 inches of rain. And what is considered normal is 49 inches of rain. So that creates a rainfall deficit of about 13 inches. So they are about a foot of rain below normal for the time of year. So that is very dry. And so now we're going to go down south into Louisiana. And so we're going to look at, what station here? Lake Charles. We're going to pull up Lake Charles Station and see what the precipitation looks like there. So again, pretty similar progression for areas to the north. Precipitation has been about normal for the first half of the year, and then as we go to the second half of the year, so after about June, after about the start of summertime on the calendar year, it's been bone dry across Louisiana. This is in the southwestern part of the state, so it's been bone dry. They have had basically no rain or very little rain over the past 4 months or so, creating a very, very large rainfall deficit. And so where they stand currently is they've accumulated up to about 35 inches of rain so far this year, and what is considered normal is 52 inches of rain. So that's going to create a rainfall deficit of about 17 inches of rain. So it is a very, very large deficit. There are some parts of Louisiana that have even higher deficits, perhaps as high as almost 2 feet of rain. So in that, where that exceptional drought is currently located, the rainfall deficits there are about 1 to almost up to 2 feet of rain below normal. So some very large deficits in the rainfall, and that's created the drought conditions that we're seeing today. So those were the rainfall deficits that we looked at over some parts of the southeastern United States. So let's take a look at the background synoptic scale pattern over the last 30 days and see if that can help explain why we haven't had much precipitation. So we're going to look at the SPC Mesoscale Analysis Archive over the past 30 days, and we have analyzed the surface dew points that are in the colored shading you see on this loop. And so the greens and the yellows are indicative of the 60 or 70 degree dew points. And so that's where your best moisture is located. And so as we see here on this loop, several times we had pretty strong cold fronts that have swept the Gulf of Mexico of that moisture. We're going to see this loop around again. And so you see where you have these cold fronts that are pushing those 60 to 70 dew points pretty far down to the south and well down into the Gulf of Mexico. And so when you have your next storm system come through, it doesn't have a lot of moisture to pull up from the Gulf of Mexico to help produce a lot of rain. So obviously the more moisture you have in the environment, the more rainfall you would expect to get. And so that's one thing that we've been lacking, is we just haven't had a really strong surge of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, thanks to high pressure systems that are pushing that cold and dry continental air mass down into the southeastern states. So that is part of the reason why we haven't had all that much precipitation over the last month or so. So now let's look at the rainfall forecast going forward and see if there's going to be any changes to that. So this is the 7-day rainfall forecast put out by the Weather Prediction Center. And so they are forecasting about 2 to 3, maybe 4 inches of rain down in southern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, Alabama, and then over in the Gulf Coast area. And then areas further to the north, generally precipitation about less than an inch or so. So we'll get some drought improvement over in the southern United States, but also there are going to be a lot of areas that are going to miss out on the rainfall this upcoming week. So that's the rainfall forecast for the next 7 days. So now we can look ahead and look beyond the 7-day forecast, and I can show you what the day 8 through day 14 outlook looks like. And so these maps are put out by the Climate Prediction Center, and they are forecasting temperature and precipitation. And so they're forecasting above normal temperatures for the eastern half of the country, and also forecasting above normal precipitation for much of the continental United States. And these maps are valid for the week of Thanksgiving. So we could very well be looking at a warmer and stormier weather pattern for the week of Thanksgiving. We can even look beyond the day 8 to day 14 outlooks and see if this pattern flip is going to remain as we go through the next couple of weeks. And so this is the temperature outlook for weeks 3 and week 4. So this is end of November and beginning of December. And so forecasting, again, above average temperatures for the eastern half of the country, and forecasting above normal precipitation for the southern and southeastern states. So it looks like the pattern flip that we're going to be experiencing is going to stay for a little bit, and so that'll help with the drought conditions, help improve some of the worst areas of the drought. So that's going to wrap it up for this video, and I hope this video shed some light on kind of why we haven't had much precipitation over the past month or so. But going into the next 2 to 3, maybe even 4 weeks, the weather pattern looks to be much more active as we go through the next month. And so that's all that I'm going to have for today. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos that are put out, and I'll see you next time.